Hello, everyone, and welcome to another visit to the world of Aja Pearl. It's my world, and I'm so happy you're here. So, as you all know, this is the first day of Black History Month. So, happy Black History Month to everyone. Today, we have a special guest. As always, our guests are always special. She is the author of the book. Who the hell told you that? That sounds interesting. Please welcome my special guest, Dr. Melissa Carver. Hello, how are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. How are you? It's so good to
Uh,
finally see you where we can actually discuss verbally.
Absolutely. So, how do you want to be addressed? As Dr. Carver or Melissa?
Melissa is totally fine.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so Melissa, tell us what is I know your prefix is doctor. What's your field?
Philosophy.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes. Yes. So I focus on mindset, manifestation, emotional health, mental health, all of those things.
Great.
All of the things that control our frequency and what we get back in life.
So, were you always into the human mind and how it worked?
Yes, absolutely. And also in our thoughts and how our thoughts create the world around us and our own personal happiness. We can be going through a bad situation and we're not always going to be happy, but how do we get ourselves out of those unhappy moments in a more efficient manner and come out on the other side with some lessons where we can move forward without being stuck in that survival mode?
I I totally agree, and I think it's very important that we know how to get out of those situations because most people feel that because they're in a bad situation, they're confined into that bad situation, and it's and that's very detrimental to their well-being as well as their mindset. So it's important for people to know that they don't have to settle in that bad space. They can always get out of that bad space, and there are some people who want to get out of that bad space but don't know how.
We're absolutely, yes. Yes. And that is my favorite thing to do is to help provide people with the tools they need to get out of it. Not only just now, but you can continue to use these tools over and over again because life isn't going to stop happening around us and to us. We're going through one bad thing and we get out of it. That's not going to be the end by any means. It's going to continue to throw challenges.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny you say that because, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can agree with me, but like for the majority of my life, I felt like because I was in the situation, I was confined in that situation because I felt like, well, this is what God wanted me to, this is what God wanted, and I was meant to be in that situation. But the truth of the
Hmm.
matter is that um, that we can always get out of our bad situations. We're never confined in our bad situations. Um,
Right.
for example, I was in an abusive relationship, and I felt like I was supposed to be there as a form of a punishment because I hurt somebody who I love very very much, and because I hurt this person, I felt like I was this was my sentence.
Hmm.
I was sentenced to be in this abusive relationship as well as and endure so much, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, financial, all that. And then on top of that, I had a baby with this in this abusive relationship.
And
I
then were you one of those women that tell yourself like, "Well, I want to keep the family together." And I mean, I know I was guilty of that previously too. We're so programmed to think that once you have a child, you're supposed to stay there and you're supposed to do any and all things to make it work, no matter what, because this baby needs a family.
absolutely, that was my mindset because my son who is 19 years old, he didn't have a father. The only father figure he knew was my father, his grandfather. And when I had my daughter, I didn't want that for her.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
felt like I have to stay with him so that my daughter can have a father. Little did I know at that time it was detrimental to her just as much as it was detrimental to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I'm
yeah.
glad you got out.
Oh yeah, I am 12 years removed from that relationship.
Good. Good.
I mean, it's still a
That is
battle.
awesome.
It's still a
Right.
battle,
Right.
but I'm not there anymore.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
every day it gets better.
And then we have the whole chore of now we've walked away. So now you have to learn again how to be in a relationship with yourself and with those
Hmm.
around you so that you're not in that survival mode. Because if you're in an abusive relationship, physically or mentally, now you tend to treat other people differently when they come along. You have triggers and reactions that are based upon how that person treated you rather than how this new person is treating you.
Absolutely right. And like I said, if you guys if anybody's watching, um, you can always get out.
Absolutely. Yes. Find the shelter, find the phone number, do whatever you need to do by any means necessary to get out of there for sure. Yeah. It's really, really hard at first, and that creates new challenges,
Hmm.
but you can't get to the other side without facing those.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's gonna take time.
Hmm.
This isn't something that happens overnight. It's going to take time, but you got to put in the work, and you have to like find that inner strength. You have to say to yourself, if there's you have to find there's we all got a breaking point, and once and I always and what I've learned is when you've had enough, you'll know.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And pull that strength from those around you. Even if you don't have family or friends around you, going to those shelters, finding those women support groups and asking them to, give me some strength right now. Share your strength with me, whether that is energetically from a frequency perspective, or it is your words of encouragement, or it is your stories of how you got out or your friend got out, whatever it is. um, Ask those other people because they are happy to share with you the resources that they have, even if that resource is just what they can tell you and encourage you with.
Hmm. Absolutely. So about this book, tell me about this book.
The book is all about deprogramming. That's why it's called Who the Hell Told You That?
I
Because
love it. Love it. I love it.
we have been programmed generation after generation from the womb. There's so many things that we're programmed in that we don't even know because we weren't here a living human being yet.
Hmm.
But genetically, it continues to go down the line. Speaking of that survival mode, um,
Hmm.
and the great things too. I mean, the wonderful aspects come from our ancestors as well. But obviously, the ones that are the struggles are the ones that get our attention a little bit more.
Hmm.
And then, of course, it's like you come out and you're born and they start just putting stamps on your butt and they say, okay, you are this religion, you are this nationality, you are whatever, you are rich, you're poor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever quote unquote we are as a family unit, now you are too,
Right.
right? And how often parents tell children, a child might ask for something, we can't afford that, we poor, we broke. I ain't even had a chance to make no money. But you hear that over and over and over again all throughout your life. And, like you were saying earlier, you just felt like that's where God intended you to be. That's the situation and the hand you were dealt. And That's how we begin to think. When our family unit is all in agreement as to whatever this negative thing is, and then that overflows into our neighborhood and our community, now we just feel like this is it. This is all this is all there is to life.
Mhm.
And we find it harder to get out there and create those opportunities and those experiences for ourselves. We have to get rid of those thoughts first and start transforming them into something more positive and the actions that we can take that are beneficial. And like you said, it's a process. All of it is a process.
Mhm.
But if we don't start taking those first steps, then there definitely will not be a change. And everything around us just programs us in different ways. I think our teen years for everyone is a very transformative time in our life because that's when everyone is paying attention to what is quote unquote cool, right? We're more into music and media, and
Mhm.
now it's social media is a huge influence on the teens, adults as well. But,
Mhm.
the teenagers now don't know a time without social media. There's
Oh,
been there's been social media their
I
entire
don't think they could survive.
no, there's been social media their entire life.
Mhm.
So it can be a great tool. I love social media. My news feed is like very positive and great things,
Mhm.
but that algorithm is real. And the algorithm that is used in social media is a very good metaphor for the algorithms that we start to portray in our own real, actual life. We get
Mhm.
caught up in those algorithms of society around us, whatever that may be, and we just kind of go with the flow unless we're living a very conscious, mindful lifestyle and say, you know what, you all can go that way, but I'm
Mhm.
taking a detour. I think there's maybe a better way here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny you say that because when I was a little girl, it was like I did not know my own path. I couldn't figure out where am I supposed to be. I was always told, well, you got to be this, 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 but I'm like, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me. And I had to like, it was like I was searching for like, okay, do I go here? Do I go here? Do I go here? Do I go here? It was a battle for me because I was trying to figure out where do I belong. And then I realized when I got older, it's like, you know what? You're your own person.
Right.
It's okay to stand alone.
Right. You're not going to fit into any of those boxes that they're trying to put you in because you're a circle, you're not supposed to go in a box.
Right. It's like recently, not recently, but maybe about a decade ago, well, not even a decade ago, like a few years ago, I just discovered that what I have has a name, and I have empathy. I just found out like, oh wow, no wonder I'm able to feel
Mm,
how the other person is feeling without having these same experiences because I'm like, wow, what? Like, how come I understand where this person's coming from? Like, what's wrong with me? I thought something was wrong with me. I'm like, no, and then I realized there's nothing wrong with me. I'm an empath,
right.
and maybe it's because, and that's because I'm able to relate to other people without, you know, jumping the gun and being critical with this person because I understand what they're coming from.
Hmm.
And not all of us have that kind of gift. And I'm blessed
No.
that I have that kind of gift. It's just that, and it's just that, like, like I said, I've always been trying to fit myself I'm like a round peg trying to fit in a square hole.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm like, I wasn't meant for this. And I'm like, I was just get so fucking like, why? And I've always been seen as the weird kid in my neighborhood back in the day. I've always been seen as weird, and I thought that was a bad thing. And see, it
It's
you know, it,
not. I love weird.
me too. I love weird. I embrace my weirdness because it
Yeah,
makes me
because that's
unique.
what makes you exactly. Exactly. And hopefully those children grew up and realized that for themselves because so often when people are calling other people weird, it's because of one or two reasons. Either they have a little bit of what they recognize in the other person also, but they don't want to admit that to those
Mhm.
around them, or they want it and they don't know how to get it. They see something in you that they want in their life. So rather than talking to you and saying, "Hey, can you explain this to me?" or "Why do you think about this way?" or whatever, they would just rather label you as something else.
Yeah. And I think, and back in the 80s and the 90s, people aren't. It's like these things that we have. They have a name now, but back then it was like, like you were just untouchable because it was just like you're not normal. And I'm
Mhm.
like, and I thought there was something wrong with me because to them I wasn't normal. And I
Right.
had people telling me what I'm supposed to be and what I was wrong. And that really messed me up. But
I'm glad you're embracing who you are now.
oh, absolutely. And I love it. I love it. And the book, who the hell told you that? I love the title.
Thank you.
Love the title. Very bold, very in your face. And it's like, and you're absolutely right. The minute we're born, it was like we're like given a dossier of ourselves. You're this, and if you don't follow at least one of those things, you're an outsider.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're lucky if your family and community it's only one. But yeah, definitely. And then if you don't, then like you said, you're starting to get those labels, or in a lot of cases people are literally shunned. I mean, if let's take religion is huge. Let's take
Mhm,
religion for example. If you're born in a Hindi community and your family expects you to be Hindu, if you're not that, what's wrong with you? Muslim, Christian, Jewish, it doesn't matter. I think majority of each religion views it the same way. You are supposed to be what we are. And when you are not, you are disgracing us, or you are it's just a phase. It's a rebellious phase, or
mhm,
something's wrong with you, or we did something wrong
mhm,
because you are not following in our path.
mhm.
So yeah, it's hard for a lot of people to be their full authentic self. And that is what I encourage in everyone is to ask those questions and figure out who you actually are rather than who they told you to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even now, I mean, even though the LGBTQ community is more out, in the forefront, they're still, they still face their hardships.
Mhm.
Not everybody is open to a relative who is part of the LGBTQ community, which is really really sad because it messes them up, emotionally as well as psychologically. And it,
And the family members who shun them miss out so often on an amazing human being
yeah,
because they're not looking at who the person is. They're looking at the labels
right,
that we love to throw on humans' foreheads.
mhm, yeah. And I think we should just get rid of labels.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. Right. Can we just be? Because they're so just restrictive. Even if you do consider yourself one of these particular labels, it could be anything. Like politics is obviously another big one, right? And so often people will stick to whatever the majority is going for here in this side, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. They're going to follow that road to the death because they are so attached to whatever that label is. Oh, well, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat and this is what my party's doing. So I'm just going to go right off the cliff with them.
and they do that. They do
Absolutely.
that.
They absolutely do that because their ego just cannot let go of what they have always said. Adults are so afraid of saying, you know what, I have some new information now.
Hmm.
So I'm going to shift my thinking. or I'm going to continue to research because of
Mhm.
this new information.
Mhm.
They would just rather say, oh, well, yeah, I mean, that might be true, but that's just one thing.
I'm like, really, really, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. And again, how often have they even asked themselves, is this really truly me at my core? Like, is this what I believe and I think and how I feel? Or am I just going with what my parents and grandparents did?
Mhm.
They taught me that this is how we vote or this is how we do politics around here. So I'm just going to roll with that because if I don't, even if I don't feel that way, then
Mhm.
it's going to be an argument at every family function, or they're going to look down on me, or they're going to talk
Yeah.
bad about me.
Yeah.
We're so afraid to go against the grain as society, but I do think it's getting better. I think people are stepping out and speaking their truth more,
Mhm.
and that encourages other people to do it. And that is my passion for sure, is guiding others and living their truth.
Absolutely. I firmly believe we should all be like, if this was a perfect world, everyone would be their authentic selves without any judgment.
Yeah.
And I think, and when I say that, I think of Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech. I think about that all the time. Speaking of which, because it's the first day of Black History Month, is there a particular um Black person, dead or alive, they don't even have to be American, that you gravitate to?
My first answer would be Angela Davis,
Like,
for sure. There's a long, long list,
yes,
but
it's okay.
she is one of my favorites. And I would definitely have to throw my husband up there because I certainly look up to him a lot. He is absolutely amazing and lives a very conscious lifestyle. So his personal growth and watching him question himself and evolve as a person has just been a complete honor. And I know this is not the topic that we're going to talk about, but since it is Black History Month, do you mind if I share something with your audience that they may or may not know?
Not at all. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I am Melungeon. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, most people probably do not. That's why I always ask. Because everyone's like, what is that? So, Melungeon is multiracial.
Mhm.
So, I am Gypsy, Turk, Moorish, which is black, and Native. So, you combine all of those, and it's called Melungeon.
Okay.
And this month, I go on ABC once a month, and
Okay.
I just talk about different things based upon mindset, mindfulness, consciousness, etc. And this month for my segment, my friend Dr. Jose Bay is
Mhm.
going on with me. That is another person that I definitely admire. If any of your viewers want to look up his YouTube or his book, he is an outstanding teacher.
Mhm.
But he teaches about Moorish history the most and how the Moors, aka Black people,
Mhm.
were here in America when it was Turtle Island, long before the founding fathers. And we're right,
Founding fathers.
right, just like discovered.
Let's not go there.
Don't get me cussing on your show too much. Woo. Anyway,
Hmm.
but that is another aspect that goes in with our programming and our unconscious and subconscious mind and these labels that are thrown on us, right?
Mhm.
Um, People think that they know history because they've gone to school,
Yeah.
but they're only giving you the history that they want to give you. It's not that the information isn't out there, but that does affect how we think and process things, and has kept so many of us in a survival mode. And sometimes a survival mode that we don't even recognize or understand why, because it's ancestral.
Hmm.
Of course, if you come to a country and take out over 50% of the people, of course that's going to have some type of psychological effect on the generations to come,
Right.
right? So, yeah, it's a very deep, deep conversation that we could go on for hours.
Hmm.
But what I suggest to your viewers is to, start with what you do know when it comes to deprogramming and figuring out who the hell told you that. And like, did I tell myself this? Did my parents tell me this? Did my peers tell me this? At what point did this become my truth? And is it my authentic truth, or is it just my surface level truth?
Right.
Is this what makes me happy, or is this just what I was told I'm supposed to do? And starting there and then working your way back. So often we also hear, don't go back, you're not looking that way. Don't worry about your past, just move forward. We have to worry about our past to dissect it and figure out where this came from. We
Hmm.
can't just look at the problem and the challenges that are happening right in front of us,
Hmm.
because how we face them and how our brain processes that we're going to make it better or not make it better
Hmm.
is so often based upon what we've gone through in our past.
Yeah. And
Yeah, our unconscious and subconscious mind creates our automatic reactions. It's the one making the decisions for us most of the time, unless we're stopping and taking a breath and pausing to say, let me think about this logically. Let me also tune into my intuition
hmm.
and then decide. You know, your unconscious mind is great when it stops you from walking out into traffic or
Right.
walking off of a cliff,
Right.
but it's not so great when you're trying to fix a challenge with a friend that you've had an argument with.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually working on a book called "Are the Kids All Right?"
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and "Are the Kids All Right?" Are I actually took the adapted the title from a project I took part in when I was living in New York, and it's called "Stoop to the Street." Yeah, yeah, "Stoop to the Street," and you have a group of people, and it took place in Brooklyn on these brown on like this street. The street was like a row of brownstones, and we sat on the stoop and we talked about domestic violence and how it affected the children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the title was called "Are the Kids All Right?" So I took that title and used it for my book. But this book is about unresolved childhood trauma, and I think a lot of people go suffer that.
Absolutely. I
I
think we all suffer that in one form or another. It may not have come from our family,
mhm,
but in school, perhaps, you
mhm,
know, peer pressure, perhaps. Because when we think about trauma, we think it has to be so outlandish or severe,
mhm,
but trauma looks different for everyone. And sometimes it's those little small things adding up. Sometimes it's one comment, one comment from one person can stick in a person's brain for years and years and years to come,
mhm.
because it just really hurt them so deeply in that moment. I love that topic so much. Yeah, I grew up in a home where my dad beat my mom. I started fighting my dad. He hit me also, but I would start fighting with him to protect her.
Mhm,
So at about age 13, he almost killed me. And that is when something just in me
mhm,
completely shifted. And
mhm,
I started fighting with everything that I had in me.
mhm,
Um, so it is extremely important to talk about this. I love that you are doing that. And again, so many women, my mom was that person that thought she's supposed to stay with him
Mhm.
because divorce she was programmed, even though we didn't go to church,
Mhm.
she was very programmed that it was a sin to get a divorce.
Mhm.
So she would not leave him. There was that in addition to the fact that she felt sorry for him. And
Yes.
she just continued to stay. Finally, when I was way grown and moved out of the house, she divorced him.
Yeah.
But for years, she lived that way. Yeah.
Right. I'm just glad that your mom was was able to get out of there, or what I call it. She woke up on time.
Right.
She woke up in time, and I say that because not all of us wake up on time.
No.
Like those who don't wake up on time stay asleep, and you know what I mean when they stay
Hmm.
asleep, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just happy that your mama woke up on time to say, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Absolutely. And being in the work that I am in and the field that I am in, of course, I analyze every situation and I look at everything from what they have gone through as well. And after I have calculated all of his trauma, I understand completely why he acted the way he did. I'm not making an excuse for him by any means,
Absolutely.
because he should have taken the initiative to go get help.
Hmm.
But I also do understand that even now, it's very hard in some communities and sexual genders. I mean, it does play a role. Men were told that they didn't go to therapists,
Hmm.
right? They handled their own problems.
Hmm.
You don't go talk to people about this. You don't talk to anybody about it. Uh, just men were portrayed as so weak if they even cried.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand how he got to that point and the extreme measures that came from it. But I'm not making an excuse for it at all.
Right.
And that's something I think we need to really start looking at as the human race, is encouraging more and more people to make therapy normal. Like, even if you're not going through something in that moment, make it normal to be in these settings, even if it's a group setting where
Hmm.
you can just talk things out.
Hmm.
And then it doesn't build up so much to the explosion part,
Absolutely.
the physical violence. That's
Right.
so often where that comes from, is everything has been bottled up for so long. It's like shaking a soda can, right? And then opening it. But if we talk about all those little things, yeah.
Hmm.
And again, definitely that is not to make an excuse for anyone who becomes physically violent with another person, but it's to understand that, let's put it out there that, hey, it's okay to go to therapy.
Yeah. Therapy doesn't make you crazy. It's not saying that you're crazy, because a lot of people have that kind of mindset. Oh,
Absolutely.
she's going to therapy. Something wrong with her.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anybody.
Or that it's okay for women to go to therapy because women are so emotional anyway, right?
Right.
And it's okay for women to do that,
Right.
but not men.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah. And saying things like, this is something that I mentioned in the book. How often have you heard even a mother say to her son, "Stop crying like a little girl"? That phrase alone, going back to how trauma is different, and
Hmm.
sometimes all it takes is a phrase,
Yeah.
that phrase alone can change their entire life perspective on their emotions.
Absolutely. Not to mention, it can change your perspective on the opposite sex.
For yes, yes, for sure. Hmm.
Well, That's our time for today. I want to thank Dr. Melissa Carver for stopping by and visiting the world of Aja Pearl. I hope she comes back again because this is a very interesting. We have a very interesting conversation. So I want to thank you for stopping by,
Thank you
and
for having me.
thank you, and thank you all for stopping at the world of Aja Pearl. It's my world, and thank you for stopping by. Have a good night.